They're two of Mario's grandest adventures, but even they hold a lot of mystery. Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at gameplay elements, behind-the-scenes trivia, and other fun facts that you might not know about Super Mario Galaxy and its sequel.
Welcome! Welcome, New Galaxy!
But before we dive in, we publish new content all week long. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. It all comes around. One of the most notable elements when it comes to Super Mario Galaxy's level design is the use of spherical globes and planetoids that Mario runs around on. Series creator and Galaxy producer Shigeru Miyamoto was apparently dead set on implementing this design into a video game, even years before Galaxy was made. Die-hard fans may remember a GameCube tech demo called Super Mario 128 showcased in 2000, whose physics evolved into Mario walking sideways and upside down. But this design perspective could have shown up earlier. Miyamoto first tried to include it in Doshin the Giant, a god simulation game that was never released in North America. But the game was too far into development when he suggested it to the developers. The sound of space. You're probably aware that Super Mario Galaxy was the first game in the series to utilize a live orchestra for its soundtrack. But behind the scenes, it had a pretty bumpy road in getting created. Mahito Yokota was in charge of its direction and originally styled it after Latin American music. After scoring 28 tracks, the entirety of his work was rejected by Koji Kondo, sound supervisor and the legendary composer who had been with the series since Super Mario Bros. According to Kondo, Yokota's work sounded too cute and like it was just for children. Yokota almost quit out of frustration, but then compiled tracks with 3 different styles to present to Miyamoto, who chose the more epic orchestral style, not realizing that it was actually composed by Kondo, not Yokota. The poor guy. He eventually got his bearings though, and, along with Kondo, created one of the best soundtracks a Mario game has ever received. The color of space. In the first game, Mario is accompanied by a baby Luma, a star child that gives him the ability to perform a spin attack. This Luma is given a sort of cream coloration, different from all the others to set it apart. Interestingly, this color is very similar to the color Cosmic Latte, which is said to be the average color of the various galaxies in the universe. This was decided on through a study conducted by astronomers at Johns Hopkins University, which they published in a paper in 2003. By studying the light from more than 200,000 galaxies, they deduced that the average from all of them produced a very light beige color. It's unclear if Nintendo chose this color because of this study, but it's interesting nonetheless. Rosalina, the guitarist. Rosalina provided the heart of Super Mario Galaxy's story and has gone on to be a popular inclusion in several other games, both mainline and spin-off. Nintendo has since given her some musical talent, showing her to play the guitar. But at first, this wasn't shown in a game. You can see her playing the guitar on the cover of the Super Mario 3D World soundtrack, as well as in concept art for Super Mario Odyssey, a game she doesn't even appear in. Nintendo finally decided to make this a canonical aspect of her character in the Switch version of the game released in October of 2025. That version came with extra storybook chapters, one of which shows her performing for her Lumas. Unused levels. It's always fun to look at unused levels for Mario's adventures, and Galaxy has several, but there are 2 that are more interesting than the others. First, we have Starman Fort, which was composed of a large castle with a waterfall and an icy area at its base. Concept art exists of the level, as do pieces within the game's code that dedicated players have pieced together to get a better look at it. The other level is Star World, which was an introductory section that was playable at E3 2006. Some of its planets went on to be used in different galaxies for the final game. But what was most interesting is that it had a branching path design where you could find different stars and bosses depending on the path you took. Super Mario Cursed. Mario transforms in these games much like he does in many others, by collecting power-ups in the forms of mushrooms and flowers. But this could have been very different. During an Iwata Asks interview, one of the developers, Hideaki Shimizu, revealed that an early idea was to have Mario transform via curse. He specifically cited the B Mario power-up, stating it would have been against Mario's will, given him limited actions, and it was designed to make players want to get rid of it quickly. Some type of hindrance on gameplay actions doesn't exactly sound fun for the player, so we're grateful this went in a different direction. Bone Mario. Speaking of power-ups, not every idea can make it into a game. For Super Mario Galaxy 2, the team thought of implementing a bone power-up that would have made Mario a skeleton. In a 2011 interview with Kotaku leading up to the release of Super Mario 3D Land, developer Koichi Hayashida revealed that this idea was rejected by Miyamoto. Interestingly, animations for Mario's skeleton can still be found within the game's code. And in 2021, a modder on YouTube named Arum discovered that you can still access code to turn Mario into a skeleton. Mario doesn't take physical damage in this form, but unused text for signboards seem to point to this power-up being used for a scrapped prankster comment. This text states the bone curse would periodically lower your health, and stepping into light or collecting coins would restore it. Chico and Tikoji. There are a couple of unused NPC models within the first game's code, named Chico and Tikoji, both being star-shaped characters. Where Chico is small and red, Tikoji is blue and elderly, with a big, bushy set of eyebrows and a mustache. It's unclear what role they would have played, though their shape implies relation to the Lumas. What's interesting is that Tikoji looks incredibly similar to characters who have appeared in previous games, the Millennium Star in Mario Party 3, and the Star Spirits from the original Paper Mario, namely Eldstar, who also sports a large mustache. Jungle Beat Connections. Prior to working on Super Mario Galaxy, the development team worked on the GameCube's Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. This is why you can find banandalions in both games, massive dandelion-like flowers that fling you towards a distant location. However, in the game's code, you can find multiple leftover models from Jungle Beat, implying these were also, at one point, planned to be brought over. These include several enemies like a bat, a pig, and a bee, a slew of level textures, and Kiki, a helpful monkey that would hang from trees and throw DK around. Why only the banandalions were included is unknown, but it would have been cool to see more of these connections. No story. Even though it's light on story in comparison to most games, Super Mario Galaxy still has more story than most mainline Mario entries. This was apparently a big sticking point for Miyamoto. He didn't feel that story beyond the basic setup was really necessary for a Mario game. Yet, during development, the game began to feature a heavier focus on plot and cutscenes, and he even asked the team to remove those elements. Director Yoshiaki Koizumi argued against removing them, and Miyamoto eventually conceded. And he even later stated that what's most important is that the game resonates with players, which the story very much did. Its own competition. Super Mario Galaxy 2 was revealed at E3 2009, and was released almost a year later at the beginning of the following summer. But it actually could have been released a lot sooner. During a private conference at E3 with select journalists, Miyamoto revealed that the game was very, very far along, but Nintendo was going to hold it back from release so as not to compete with itself. New Super Mario Bros. Wii was set to release in late 2009, and they didn't want to force consumers to choose between two Mario games. And many general consumers were likely grateful for it. The How-To DVD. Versions of Super Mario Galaxy 2 in Japan, Europe, and Australia came packaged with a DVD meant to teach players the core mechanics of the game. It was intended for players who found 3D platforming more difficult than that in Mario's 2D side-scrollers, but it also featured several staff members from Nintendo showing off more advanced skills that players could try to replicate.
If the meter runs out, you'll lose one life. Squash the Goomba, and a coin appears.
The DVD was an idea from the late president of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, and was considered an alternative to in-game tutorials, which the sequel had fewer of. However, the irony is that, unless you modded the console, the Wii could not play DVDs.
And that's how Mario's latest space adventure begins.
Getting a boost. One of the types of prankster comments in the first Galaxy is the Cosmic Comment, which tasks Mario with competing in a race against a cosmic clone of himself. There are only a handful of them in the game, but they can be a little stressful as you sprint to reach the star before your space-themed doppelganger. One thing that makes this easier, and which isn't stated in-game, is that you can get a boost during the countdown at the start of the race. If you were to hold forward when it begins, press and hold the Z button when 2 appears, and then press A when Go appears, you'd gain a significant lead. Lubba's gender. An important supporting character in Super Mario Galaxy 2 is Lubba, who operates Starship Mario. Weirdly, the gender of this character has been a bit confusing over the years. Many players probably assumed Lubba was male, considering the low voice from actor Scott Burns, and that the English language manual referred to them as such. However, German and Spanish versions referred to Lubba as female. The Lubba trophy in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U used male pronouns, except not in the Japanese version. Even Yoshiaki Koizumi, director of the first game and producer of the sequel, referred to Lubba as aunt-like, before admitting he didn't know the character's gender. It wasn't until the Switch version in 2025 when all regions used the same pronouns, confirming Lubba as female. The Hidden Note. This one's a fun little programming trick. In the first game, at the start of the second Galaxy, Good Egg Galaxy, Mario can interact with the door of a house on the opening planet. This brings up text telling you that you can enter the house by using the pipe on the other side of the planet. The door doesn't look like it has a note on it to read, but Nintendo hid a signpost behind it to make it seem as such. You can actually spot this hidden note by angling the camera properly. The Zelda Connection. Super Mario Galaxy 2 was originally envisioned as an update to the first game, under the name of Super Mario Galaxy More. Because it was using the same environments and engine, just with leftover ideas, Miyamoto wanted the team to complete the project in a year. If that sounds familiar, it's because he issued a similar deadline to the Zelda team when creating Majora's Mask as a follow-up to Ocarina of Time. And he even used that game as reasoning why it shouldn't take the developers too long to churn out. But after ideas expanded and the galaxies grew, it was decided to turn the game into a full-fledged sequel. Thus, 1 year turned into 2.5 years. And the game was all the better for it. Switching things up. During development, Super Mario Galaxy 2 underwent a few phases. The team wanted to differentiate it as much as possible from the first game, and one of the concepts they thought of, they called switching. Essentially, the idea was to push a button and have the entire environment you were in completely change in a huge, dynamic way. This was another connection to Majora's Mask. The 3-day time loop switched the world in different ways, many of which had a big impact on how you interacted with it. The developers found it too hard to implement on a big scale, and while it never fully came together, there are a few levels that utilize some type of switching phase that players have to work around. Turning coconuts into watermelons. A new type of collectible item introduced in Super Mario Galaxy are the Star Bits, which you can shoot at enemies or give to certain Lumas to purchase items or get them to transform into new planets. However, if you collected enough of them, you'd also bring about a different effect. In both games, if you reach the whopping amount of 9,999 Star Bits, you'll turn every single coconut across the game into a watermelon. Why does this happen? We honestly couldn't tell you. Retreading ground. One of the coolest levels in Super Mario Galaxy 2 is Throwback Galaxy, which is a reimagined version of Whomp's Fortress from Super Mario 64. At the top, you even face off against the same boss, the Whomp King. And, sure enough, he also recites the same speech as in his original appearance. The fight itself isn't too hard, and most players can probably defeat him without losing a life. But if you do, there's a fun, small Easter egg when you go back for a rematch. The Whomp King will begin reciting the same speech before stopping and exclaiming that he's tired of making it. The Sonic Hoax. Prior to the second game's release, a rumor started circulating that Sonic the Hedgehog would appear as a playable guest character. The rumor originated from a tweet made by unofficial fan site Nintendo Gamer, which cited an inside source at Nintendo. This, obviously, wasn't true, but there are some who believed it. After all, at this point, Sega's Blue Speedster had already appeared in Super Smash Bros. Brawl and starred alongside Mario in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Still, Sonic's speed would have made for a vastly different experience when traveling around these galaxies. But hey, maybe one day we'll get that crossover platformer.
Leave it to me!
Do you know of any other fun facts about the Super Mario Galaxy games? Be sure to share them with us in the comments, and we'll see you next time.